And good afternoon, New York sports fans. Welcome to Varvaro Radio. I am your host, Andy Varvaro, and you are listening to WDOT Port Washington on the dot. Well, it's January still. Got a lot to talk about. Got the NFL season. Obviously, it wrapped up. We got the playoffs. We got the basketball season. We got the hockey season. We got the baseball off season. And just last night, I attended Pitch Talks New York City in B.B. King, located in Times Square. And it was a fantastic little talk that took place. Buster Olney came out. Ken Rosenthal, Jay Jaffe, Adam Rubin, Sweeney Murdy, Tyler Kepner, Matthew Cerrone, etc. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. It was really a great event. Just talked a lot of baseball, took questions from fans, got a little inside scoop on a couple things, and it was really fantastic. It was a really fantastic event. So I want to start off the show today talking a little bit about what was discussed last night. First of all, where will Max Scherzer and James Shields end up? These have been two of the most intriguing, two of the biggest names pitchers in the offseason. And it's now late January. I mean, we're a few weeks out? Less than a month away, about a month away from spring training, I would say. Winter meetings were a month ago. I mean, it's late in the offseason. I don't think it's any surprise that Max Scherzer hadn't signed because of his agent, Scott Boras. He likes to do this, but it is a bit of a shock that James Shields hasn't signed. There's certainly plenty of suitors for both teams, and I think Shields is going to sign before Scherzer signs. I just wanted to throw out a couple predictions. I think James Shields, I don't see how the Red Sox don't pursue James Shields. I just don't see how. The only reason they wouldn't pursue James Shields is if they trade for Cole Hamels, but they need a number one guy at the top of that rotation. So I think everything else being equal, if the Red Sox don't make a play for Cole Hamels, I think James Shields ends up in Boston. And Max Scherzer, I think, is going to end up back in Detroit. But, a lot of new rumors surfacing, saying he might go back to St. Louis. He's a St. Louis kid. I know Steinbrenner just came out today and said you can never count the Yankees out of anything in the offseason because they're the Yankees and they like to spend a lot of money. So I guess they're both in play for both of these guys. Who knows? Really a big question mark. But last night, they broke the show up into, they talked about national, baseball, Hall of Fame, things like that. Then they broke it up into a Mets segment and a Yankees segment. So, that being said, we're already talking about the Yankees. Sweeney Murdy, Jay Jaffe, Kepner, they brought up a lot of interesting points. First, Alex Rodriguez is coming back this year. All right. He's coming off, he's 39, 40 years old. Historically, these guys who come back after taking a year off for whatever reason, not going to have a good year. Rodriguez is old, coming off of surgery. Who knows what kind of shape he's going to be in. Most of the stars on their team, especially the guys signed for the longest terms, on the wrong side of 30. You got Brian McCann behind the dish, who people are saying is going to be, the guy to step up in the clubhouse now that Jeter's gone. You got Jacoby Ellsbury in center. Brett Gardner in the outfield. But other than that, I mean, the rotation is a huge question mark, which is why I think they're definitely still in for one of these guys, Scherzer or Shields. I don't think you can count them out for either of them because you have Tanaka, who's a question mark because, he got hurt last year. Nova, hurt last year. Sabathia has been horrendous for the last several years. I mean, even if he's not injured, the guy's putting up 5 ERAs every year. I don't understand how you can rely on him to be. I'm not just a top of the rotation. He's barely a guy who's suitable to fill out any rotation. If you actually look what he's done the last few years. And then you have Pineda, another guy. He pitched a good season in Seattle. He was out for 2 years with injury. Pitches last year, gets suspended, gets hurt. We don't see him again. So I don't see how you can count the Yankees out to sign a pitcher, even though they're trying to look long-term. They're trying to get younger. They got Didi Gregorius. They're trying to be a little flexible. But I don't think the team is there to compete, and they're the Yankees. They're expected to compete every year. The only real thing they have going for them is that whole division is mediocre. The whole division is mediocre. I don't feel bad for the Yankees. I never feel bad for the Yankees. They have 27 rings. They like to flaunt that, but they're in a tough spot because they're in a position where they always need to compete, but at the same time, they need to get younger and they need to look toward the future. Interesting fact I learned last night, the Yankees have not drafted a single position player that ended up becoming a Major League Baseball player since like 2006. And that means position players on the Yankees or position players that ended up being traded and played for other teams. Not a single one. Not a single one. That's abysmal. That's why changes were made in that front office. The future doesn't look great right now in the Bronx. It really doesn't. But I still, despite their need to get younger, can't count them out for Shields or Scherzer. Just can't do it. And we talked about the Mets yesterday, too. Buster Olney said something that really stuck out to me. He said that other executives in baseball see Dilson Herrera as a potential superstar in this league. Now, Dilson Herrera came up. He's a second baseman, 20 years old, came up at the end of last year, played pretty well, hit a lot of home runs for a short amount of time he played. He showed the power was there just as a 20-year-old. And Buster Olney said other executives in baseball feel that he could be a superstar, which, I mean, as a Met fan, love to hear that. But as a Met fan, the other thing that implies is Daniel Murphy is gone after this year. That's the truth of it. He's a free agent, pending free agent after the 2015 season. I know Met fans love D. Murph. He was our all-star this year. Plays a terrible second base defensively. Nice with the bat. He's gone after this year. Mets have tried to shop him, but they're not getting the return that they want because most other teams around baseball see Daniel Murphy as sort of a super utility man, not an everyday second baseman, but kind of a great ninth man on the field, which is why they're not getting the return they want from him. I mean, I know the Mets tried to trade him to the Orioles. Sandy asked for Dylan Bundy. No, that's their top pitching prospect. Orioles obviously said no. So I think the strategy is let him play out at second base this year and then let him walk, unless they can get something significant in return. But I think in all likelihood, this is Daniel Murphy's last year in the orange and blue. And another good point that was made last night, the Mets up the middle, not strong at all defensively in terms of Murphy and Wilmer. I know guys like to bag on Wilmer. He can't field, but if you actually look at what he did last year, he was about a league average shortstop. But I think that's supposed to be about his ceiling. So you have at best a league average shortstop and an atrocious second baseman in Daniel Murphy playing up the middle on a pitching-centric team. The Mets front office likes to downplay it, as Adam Rubin said last night, but that's a pretty significant problem. You have a defensive, pitching-oriented team, and you can't field up the middle. I mean, you have the best fielder, one of the best fielders in baseball, Juan Garrison, center field, who's going to need to run everything down, but shortstop, second base, they're not eating up a lot of ground balls. Which is why Adam Rubin said you can expect every time John Neese pitches, expect Ruben Tejada to be playing shortstop, because John Neese induces the most ground balls out of any of the Mets' starting pitchers. So Adam Rubin said you can expect Ruben Tejada, who has a little more range than Wilmer, to be playing shortstop those days. Not exactly what Met fans want to hear. Again, I would have liked to see the Mets go out and just fix their shortstop problem, sign Stephen Drew, sign someone, trade for someone. But, that's just me. And it came out recently that the Mets were in talks with the Nationals and Rays to pull off a 3-team deal that would have sent Ben Zobrist and Yunel Escobar to the Nationals and then Ian Desmond to the Mets. The only problem was that the Rays were asking for Noah Syndergaard, the Mets' top pitching prospect, and Desmond only has 1 year of team control left. after which point the Mets would have had to offer him a significant contract north of $100 million in order to keep him, at least presumably. Desmond turned down a $100 million plus contract from the Nationals last season, so presumably at the end of the season he's going to get $100 million plus somewhere, and the Mets are not prepared to do that. Now, I know it's Ken Rosenthal's view that the Mets should have done the trade and then signed Desmond. And I heard a lot of people say, well, if you're going to do that, you might as well just try to trade for Troy Tulowitzki, which again is a bit of a fair point. Now, I am very, very hesitant to be throwing away the top pitching prospect in the farm system who has over a half a decade of team control left for a shortstop who's very, very good. An unbelievable offensive shortstop. That being said, his OPS has declined every single year the last couple of years, and he has 1 year left of team control, no guarantees past that. I'm going to be very weary before pulling that trade off. The other thing, too, which was discussed at length last night, the Wilpons don't have the money to pay Desmond. Probably don't have the money to pay Desmond. I mean, the Mets' payroll is lower than the Milwaukee Brewers. It's consistently in the bottom third of baseball. As a northeastern New York team, it's unacceptable. And it's got to frustrate Met fans that, we can't pull off a trade like this. The Mets can't pull off a trade like this because they can't sign Desmond. They just don't have the financial flexibility to sign Desmond. It's frustrating. It really is. That being said, again, if the Mets the Mets aren't going to make this trade, when Ian Desmond is a free agent next year, I don't see how there's any chance the Mets don't pursue him. I think the Mets need to pursue Ian Desmond next year as a free agent. I mean, this guy is an elite offensive shortstop. We need a shortstop. I mean, I think this is a no-brainer. You look at the Mets lineup, and then you throw Ian Desmond into the middle of that. I mean, that is a legit lineup. Not to mention you're stealing him from the Nationals, who are in division. I mean, now you're really talking about a lineup that can compete for a World Series. You really are. That is a long lineup. That's a powerful lineup. You're talking about Darno, Duda, presumably not Murphy, but Dilson Herrera, Wilmer, D. Wright, Curtis Granderson, Michael Kadire, Juan Lagares, and Ian Desmond. Those are 8 quality bats in a lineup. That is a lineup that can contend. In this offseason, if I could pick one real bone with Sandy Alderson, because you got to give Sandy Alderson credit. He built a nice bullpen. I think he's done a good job. He's putting the Mets in the right direction. There are no more. They talked about this last night. There are no more silly incidents of K-Rod beating up his father-in-law, whatever. That's all gone with. There are no more of those problems in the clubhouse. There's no circus in town. But if I could pick one bone with him this offseason so far, it's understandable that he didn't pull off the Tulowitzki trade. Understandable why he didn't do the Desmond trade. Perhaps, again, it's because of financial constraints that aren't in his hands. But one bone I can pick with him is got to get a lefty reliever, another lefty reliever. Last year was this year, really we have one lefty reliever as sort of a lock of the Major League bullpen. And you had free agents out there, from Craig Breslow, who signed for 1 year, $2 million, even Phil Koch. I mean, there were guys out there. There were signings that could have been made that weren't made. And now we're in a position where we only have one lefty reliever, and we have to bring Scott Rice back. And there's a good chance we're going to see Scott Rice again some point this season. Now, Scott Rice, again, I learned a nice little fun fact last night, courtesy of Stu Johnson, who's the announcer for the Brooklyn Cyclones. Fun fact about Scott Rice. How many pitches did he throw that ended up not being in the strike zone last year? Percentage-wise. I want to just think about that. Pitches he threw that were either battered, swung at, take all that out of the equation, how many ended up in the strike zone? The answer? 33%. 33%. I've been saying this for the last year. I always say I could get on base if I faced Scott Rice. I would get up there and I just wouldn't swing. And then I heard that last night, and it's true. 67% of the time, he doesn't even throw the ball in the strike zone. He's horrible. He doesn't pass the eye test. His stats are disgusting. I mean, this guy's an atrocious pitcher. If I'm facing the Mets and I see Scott Rice is coming in, I tell my guys, you get up there, you do not swing the bat. You do not swing the bat under any circumstances. This guy won't throw a strike. This guy can't throw a strike. I don't want to see him ever in a Mets game. I don't want to see him in Major League Baseball ever again unless he's pitching against us. He is really just awful. He's awful. It's true. So clearly there's someone in the Mets front office who loves Scott Rice, because for the last 3 years, I mean, we're seeing that someone is sitting at Citi Field going like, wow, that guy's Scott Rice. I mean, he is. I just don't understand. He's an atrocious. I can get a second grader and bring him to a Met game and say, who's the worst pitcher that pitched in this game? He'll tell you it's Scott Rice. I'm sorry, it's just a fact. So I digress. In other news, another big news, Evan Gattis was traded from the Atlanta Braves to the Houston Astros yesterday for minor league right-handers James Hoyt. Evan Gattis and James Hoyt were traded from the Braves to the Astros in return for right-handers Michael Fulton. I'm not even going to try to say that name. I mean, that name's a nightmare. And Andrew Thurman, and third baseman Rio Ruiz. Now, those are three pretty solid prospects coming from the Astros, two of which are pitchers. And, John Hart, who just took over, his new philosophy is, he wants the Braves to be built around young pitching. That's the Braves' way. And frankly, I think he's done a pretty questionable job so far. Don't love his moves. He got rid of Hayward. He signed Markakis to a 4-year deal. A couple weeks ago, I talked about why Markakis is very overrated, especially if he goes into a hitter's ballpark. He's not going to be hitting his home runs. He's one of the most overrated fielders in the league. He's made some questionable moves. He trade away Upton, he's trading away everyone. So I think the Braves, at least for the next couple of years, are going to be a pretty bad team, pretty irrelevant team in the NL East, which is good news for Mets fans. And then you look at the flip side, you look at the Astros. I frankly don't love this move for the Astros either. Now people say, Evan Gattis is made for an American League club. You can DH him because he's sort of a catcher left fielder, but he's not particularly good at either position. So I guess, the DH, you can let his right-handed power bat play in the lineup without having to worry about his defense. The only problem is the Astros already have one of those guys, and that's Chris Carter, who actually led the league last year in home runs per plate appearance. So I'm not exactly sure what they're going to do with Evan Gattis. And the other thing is, too, the Astros are still a bad team. So I don't know why they're trading for, an Evan Gattis. Evan Gattis is a very, very good offensive player last year. There's no question. But I just question whether that's sort of the right move for the Astros, given where they are on the win curve right now. I mean, I think they're still a low 70s, maybe mid-70s win team. And so it's like you're trading away these young guys who can help you for when you're relevant for Evan Gattis, who's going to give you, I don't know, maybe another win, maybe another 2 wins this year, make them a mid-70 win team. I can't say I really get it. I know the Rangers were in play for Evan Gattis, which I guess would make more sense. I know the Rangers were awful last year, but they got Prince coming back. They have guys coming back from injury. Maybe Gattis can help that team be relevant in the AL West. Can't say I totally get it for the Astros. Another big trade that came out of yesterday, actually while I was at the Pitch Talks, was the Nationals and the A's swapped Yunel Escobar and Tyler Clippard. Now, Yunel was just acquired by the Oakland A's from the Rays in the Ben Zobrist trade, and he's actually been a nice player for really his career. I didn't really realize that. Generally played shortstop, although he'll presumably be playing second base. He'll displace Danny Espinosa in Washington because Ian Desmond is playing short, and if Desmond walks, I guess they have Yunel to play short next year. He's controllable through 2016. And Tyler Clippard was a free agent after 2015, so the Nationals were fine to get rid of him. I guess the A's were looking for bullpen help. Now, I was surprised that the A's made this trade. Let me just Let me just explain why. First of all, Escobar wasn't particularly good last year. It's probably his worst year of his career. But overall, this guy's a guy who owns a .276 batting average, .347 on base percentage, .381 slugging for a shortstop, .728 OPS, and a .98 OPS plus for his career. As a shortstop, that's fine. That's actually probably good. He has an 8 defensive WAR for his career. His WARs, starting with 2014, working our way back, is negative 0.2, which, again, not good. Before that, 3.3, 2.9, 4.7, 1.0, 1.3, 4.2, 3.4, 2.4. For whatever you take WAR, for whatever that's worth. I mean, this guy's has been a good player his entire career except last year, and the A's traded him for Clippard, who's been very, very good at preventing runs in the bullpen. But it's just interesting to see the A's, who generally, according to their philosophy, relief pitchers are the cheapest commodity and the easiest to come by in baseball, and they trade him for a position player. That's trade at a position player for these guys. Billy Beane did this for Tyler Clippard this year, and last year, remember, we did it for Jim Johnson. It's interesting to see. They're gonna the Nationals are gonna use Yunel at second base, and Ken Rosenthal opines, that could mean that Ian Desmond is available if the Mets could get a deal done, because they have insurance at shortstop now. But again, it would take a lot to trade him in division. So that's the other thing you really have to worry about. But overall, lots going on. Again, I like to thank all those guys who were at Pitch Talks last night. It was a really great event. I would definitely go if it ever happened again. But now we're going to shift a little bit, talk about the NFL, some of the hirings that happened, specifically for the New York Jets and the Buffalo Bills. And I have Mono Bays on with me to talk a little bit of football, basketball, whatever we can squeeze in here right now. Mono, what are you on, 3 there?
I am.
How you doing? There you go. What's going on, Mono?
Not much, Andy.
So, what do you think of this Jets hiring? What do you think of Todd Bowles?
Todd Bowles is he's a good defensive coordinator with the Cardinals. I think we saw what he did there in Arizona. I think they had a pretty good defense. I think that drove their team, really, throughout their runs that, close to playoff runs. They were good seasons. I mean, I think looks like a good defensive coach, but I don't know. I don't know if I'm exactly thrilled about this because, I think it's a welcome change from the grandiose.
The circus has left town.
Exactly. The craziness of Rex Ryan. I think it's a welcome change mostly. I think it's good to steer the Jets in a different direction from where they've been for the past 4 years. He was a good coach, Rex Ryan. There's no denying that, but it was time for a change.
Absolutely.
And I think Todd Bowles is going to be a good coach. I think the Jets, I think it's going to be, I'm not expecting him to come in and win immediately with the Jets roster and just how they play, because that would be unreasonable. But, I'm hoping he can turn the locker room around and maybe get in a decent season, something that shows improvement, some effort.
More than 4 wins.
Exactly. And hopefully the GM that they're going to bring in. Have they brought in a GM yet?
They brought in a GM. Don't really know anything about him. Not many people do. He was the scouting director for the Texans.
Yeah, he was been in the NFL. He hasn't been in the NFL in a long time, I think.
Yeah, it was kind of.
The last time he was in it was like the early 2000s. So he's had a lull, I think, from involvement in the NFL. But I don't know enough about this guy to say. I don't really know who else they could have hired as a GM.
Right. Right.
Are there GM gems out there?
Yeah.
That, everyone's you got to get this guy.
Right.
I've never heard of that before in any sport, really. So I don't know.
Except really in baseball, it's starting to change. But that's a totally different story.
Well, it's just I wasn't expecting something that's going to make me jump out of my seat.
Of course.
I think the main thing is that as long as the coach and the GM are on the same page, there's room for improvement and there's a possibility that the team can get good. That's as long as they get themselves in check and they get the players that they both feel could succeed on the field. I guess that was the problem with Ryan and the previous GM.
Right, and I mean, they still need a quarterback.
Yeah, they do.
Still need a quarterback, and that's the big thing.
Jameis, baby. Famous Jameis.
Oh God, don't bring him in. Jesus. That's just I don't even want to. I honestly don't even want to think about that. I know we're running out of time, but Francesa yesterday he was talking about Rex Ryan's press conference at the Bills, and this guy he's coming in there. Oh, we're gonna go to the playoffs. We beat you. Doug Marone's in there saying we beat your brains in 81-20 something in 2 games, and you're coming in here like you know all the answers. We beat your brains in. So I didn't even think of that. I thought that was pretty funny. I don't know. I think Rex Ryan, same thing. I know they brought in what's his face from San Francisco as their offensive coordinator. They're going to have a lot of the same problems, I think. I don't see how Rex Ryan's going to, I don't know. I don't love the signing. I don't love the hiring for the Bills.
Yeah, I agree. I think Rex Ryan to the Falcons would have been the better fit.
I completely agree because they have the offense in place.
They have a polished offense.
Right, Matt Ryan, and then let him let him get that defense better.
Yeah, I mean you have like offensive weapons in Atlanta, and like they've proven that they're like a pretty good offensive team. And you go to like the terrible division with the Panthers and the Saints. And
absolutely. Oh, you need to
knows.
They went to the playoffs this year. Yeah, it's unbelievable. The Panthers made the playoffs with 7 wins. I mean,
not only that. I mean, like to say they made the playoffs. I mean, there have been teams who made the playoffs with 7 wins as a wild card team, but
they win your division.
Yeah, that's pretty absurd.
It is absurd. It's like the Seahawks a couple years ago.
Yeah,
I mean. Yeah,
I think that would have been a very good fit for Rex Ryan, but maybe he wants some sweet revenge on the Jets. Maybe he wants to stay in the.
He'll love it. He'll eat it up. And Buffalo's gonna because they're gonna get some attention. We're running out of time here, but quickly, New York Knicks in London tonight. Melo and Amari back. Are they gonna win?
No.
Okay, they're never gonna win. They're not gonna win another game the rest of the year.
Hopefully they don't.
NYCFC, big signing. Misk Diskarud, good signing. Yes or no?
Yeah, I guess it's a good signing. I mean, he's a good player. And what else are they going to get in the MLS?
He's amazing. And Josie Altidore going to Toronto. Toronto FC.
I'm not surprised about that. Not surprised about that.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't getting playing time. He wasn't playing well. But now we have to wrap up. PSA about bullying. What is named at the top school trouble of kids 8 to 15? Homework, cafeteria food? Neither. It's bullying. The National Crime Prevention Council on CPC reports that more than half of Americans, teens, and children witness bullying several times a week. This campaign launched September 2004, features NCPC's beloved crime and now bullying fighter McGruff. It is designed to counteract bullying at a young age by encouraging victims, witnesses, and parents to take action to prevent the problem. This has been a public service announcement from the Ad Council. Thank you, everybody. Come by to TPUSA if you have nothing else going on. TPUSA, it's in the music room. It's a lot of fun. Varvaro Radio. We got Mono Bays.
Thank you for having me, Andy.
Thanks for listening. Come back next time.